he opened the border for everybody to cross, and 20 million people later, we have him in an election year saying, oh, I'm going to do amnesty.
Biden to take sweeping election year action, shielding estimated 550,000 from deportation. You let in so many millions of people that there's no solution to the problem, so that amnesty is the only option. You overwhelm the system so it breaks. Majority of Hispanics now favor mass deportation.
Oh, I think a lot of Hispanic parents don't want gang members in their community.
Of course, a country without a border isn't a country, and a country without laws, no one's going to respect the laws. You know, is that deportation even possible? Was that important to you as a voter? So we want to hear from you. That's our question of the day. Leave it in the comments.
A new study reports that credit card rewards provide a lifeline for working class Americans. Rewards like cashback empower low and middle income families to pay for the rising price of groceries and gas. So why are DC politicians partnering with corporate megastores to steal cash back from families during skyrocketing inflation? The Durbin-Marshall credit card bill takes billions from American families, lining corporate pockets instead. Protect our credit card rewards lifeline. Tell DC politicians to oppose the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. Learn more at electronicpaymentscoalition.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please.
Just a catching strays over here.
You're in for a hell of a show.
Keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs.
It's time for our main event.
Welcome back to the Ruthless Variety Program. I am Michael Duncan. Joining me here today, John Ashbrook, and a frequent guest here of the Variety Program, our good friend, Matthew McDaniel.
It's comfortably McDaniel.
Yeah, I see that with the sunglasses.
I love the sunglasses.
So I decided if I'm sitting in Smug's seat, I should, get the Smug vibe going, kind of get in character.
How do you think he's going to handle that, pal, when he gets back from his Juneteenth holiday?
I mean, both Holmes and Smug, taking the week for Juneteenth. It's really important. Also, it's impossible to see with these things.
Yeah.
So
how the hell does he do it?
Well, he's a pro. He's a professional. So
yeah. Well, so in case you couldn't tell, Smug is missing here in action, which I find a little ironic, frankly, considering all the crap he gave to Holmes for missing Tuesday's show, and now he goes and absconds to wherever.
Yeah, the first thing he said on Monday morning was like, bro, when are we recording? Because I got to get out of here.
Oh, man, that's Smug for it.
I mean, he really is a true believer in Juneteenth. I think he and Holmes, take the week.
Take the week.
It's like the 4th of July. Take the week. It's important.
They deserve a mental health break, but we are going to soldier on as always. We have a great show for you today. If you've watched a lot of the shows here recently, we've played a lot of clips of Joe Biden. How should we say, falling down on the job. Not in command of his mental faculties. I think we need to play the first clip of the day. So finally, we got a response from the White House about how they see all of this footage going around about Joe Biden. Let's play that clip.
I'm wondering if the White House is especially worried about the fact that this appears to be a pattern that we're seeing more often.
Yeah, and I think you all have called this the cheap fakes video, and that's exactly what they are. They are cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith, and some of your news organization have been very clear, have stressed that these right-wing critics of the president have a credibility problem because of the fact checkers have repeatedly caught them pushing misinformation, disinformation, and so we see this, and this is something coming from your part of the world, calling them cheap fakes and misinformation.
So is that a turn of phrase? Is she trying to do a new thing? Cheap fakes? I'd never heard that before.
No, that's exactly what she's trying to do, and that's what they're rolling out with their allies in the mainstream media. They're saying that every time that Joe Biden freezes up, every time he has a senior moment, that's called a cheap fake.
Yeah.
So you're not allowed to pay attention to that, America. Everybody who's voting, don't look at Joe Biden losing his mind. going into dementia more every single day, it's a cheap fake.
But what would you do if you were them? Because here's the thing: they can't call it a deep fake because it is real, and it's obvious to everybody who has a brain and two eyes and has watched anything of television. So they needed some other sort of weasel word in order to make it sound like it's not real.
So in 2020, you could put him in the basement. You can't put the president of the United States in the basement for the entire election. I mean, my concern about this is like the Hunter laptop. It's the emperor has no clothes version of the Hunter's laptop. We are going to look you square in the eye and say, that's a lie.
Yeah.
What you're seeing, that's not true.
It has all the hallmarks of a cheap fake.
Yeah.
But I think your point is really good, Duncan, in that they're not calling it a deep fake.
Right.
Because they know that he's losing his mind. They see him in real life, and they know that months from now, when things are written about Joe Biden, they're not going to say deep fake because they know it's not true.
Right. It's sort of in the same vein, the whole idea of disinformation, I think, is similar in that regard. And that is, they couldn't say that the Republican perspective was a lie, that it was a different perspective on an issue, whatever the issue is. It's an issue of our politics, and they can't say we're lying, but they can say we're spreading disinformation because you're not giving the context that this issue fully deserves.
We saw this play out with the Hunter Biden laptop.
Yeah.
They had a bunch of people sign a document saying the Hunter Biden laptop is Russian disinformation so that people wouldn't believe it. Everybody knows the true story, that it's real. The White House argued that point in court under like the penalty of perjury.
Can we also say here, though, that like I love the framing of the question that I don't do the name justice.
Do it.
Karine
Jean-Pierre.
Nice.
Got from the press. It was, are you concerned about these?
Total setup. Like, this is the sort of thing where you talk to one of the reporters before and say, hey, I'm going to call on you first. This is what I'd like you to ask about because we have a statement that we'd like to read on it. And I also loved her little hat tip back to the press about how much she appreciated that certain ones of you and your media outlets have really taken up the charge of debunking these cheap fakes.
Right. It's been like 2 or 3 weeks since she has held these daily press briefings. I don't know if you guys have noticed this. I know a lot of people in the press have, but it's not like a fluke. She's not doing the events because she doesn't want to take questions about, well, the president really seemed to mumble his words. He really seemed to fail to answer any questions. And oh, by the way, is he losing his mind?
Right. When he's wandering off, when the parachuters are coming down, when he's over there for the G7, when like he's shaking Macron's hand at the D-Day memorial, and then he kind of bends over like he's going to sit down, but like they're in the middle of whatever is going on in the procession of the events, and everybody else is standing up, and he's sort of sitting down and hunched over. Like, it ain't a cheap fake.
No. Your description of that, cheap fake. CBS ran on their national news. CBS ran a segment where they described in great detail how that was a cheap fake.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but in the upper corner of the screen, they wrote digitally altered or digitally
manipulated,
manipulated media or something to that effect. And the only digital manipulation of that video was the chyron they put in the top right-hand corner of the screen. Joe Biden was looking off, away from everybody else. I mean, people can see this with their own eyes. They don't need CBS to tell them what to think anymore.
I'm so glad you mentioned CBS because I don't think we talk about it enough on the show, and I'm sure our very smart listeners and viewers of this program have run into this now. We talk a lot about MSNBC or CNN, and we make fun of people on cable news. But like the breadth of reach that broadcast news programs have in this country and the amount of liberal propaganda they put on the nightly news is terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying. Like, you think when you go on to ABC News or something, you're going to get like straight line, just the facts, Jack news. And even it's not just nightly news. I mean, you turn into Good Morning America and some of the dog shit they have in the first package of the the morning, that I'm watching with my wife when I'm having a coffee, and it's like liberal talking point, Democratic press release, the most absurd shit you would expect to see on MSNBC.
It also comes at it like they just gloss past the premise, right? Oh, cheap fakes. The White House responds to cheap fake allegations. Like, no, these aren't cheap fakes. These things don't exist.
Right.
Like,
the allegation is that they are cheap fakes. That's the thing that should be debated on the news and be like, that's fucking ridiculous. Let's play the video again.
So, this is. I mean, I hate the term gaslighting, but this is like quintessential gaslighting.
Let's steal it. Let's steal the term.
Well, it's. I think everybody who's watching this has seen. I think you guys covered it on Tuesday. The Biden and Obama at that really fancy. They raised $30 million in Hollywood
people.
and Obama has to grab his hand, lead him off stage.
Yeah. Right.
And I saw the entire video, like from a nice vantage point, and a minute and a half. It was exactly that. He grabs his arm and leads doddering Joe off stage.
Right.
Like, how is that a faked video?
They're just on, like, they're swinging wild because they're trying to last out to this debate where they can then say, look, Joe had a great performance. And they're taking on water every day between now and then. And this is what they got to do to survive until that debate, I think.
Well, one thing that I think is so funny and that I think everybody should be watching for ahead of the debate is that this week they're saying it's a cheap fake. Joe Biden is capable, much more capable than you think, than these conservatives are saying. But ahead of the debate and right after the debate, they are going to downplay his ability and say that Republicans attacked him. Republicans said he couldn't do it, but he didn't fall down. He didn't slip on a banana. He put a sentence together, and therefore he is much better than you think. And, like, on what planet is it like he's much better than you think if he's actually good to begin with? You know what I mean? Like, they are so partisan. They are so in the bag for this guy. It's really hard to watch. And it's offensive because, I mean, they're all Democrats, right? Mm-hmm. Why don't they push for a more capable Democrat to run? You know, they're like, okay, well, the party wants Joe Biden as the standard bearer, so therefore we're going to push him rather than say, like, hey, maybe we should have a different candidate.
I'm afraid of this because I heard you guys talking about this before, and John Ashbrook has been Nostradamus here, and you guys have played it. I am terrified that they're going to take Ashbrook's advice. Like, I want the desiccated Joe Biden, crypt keeper on election day versus, who are they going to choose? Michelle Obama? Who are they going to choose? Gretchen Whitmer? I mean, at least Gretchen Whitmer can form a sentence. I mean, I'm a lot more scared of who they're going to put in.
That is all true. However, I like monster trucks and I like showing up for car crashes. And that's what I love about today's modern Democratic Party, just getting to watch and have the popcorn. And I would say the other thing, just to put a little bow on this whole segment, the thing I really appreciate about this moment in time is as Republicans who are good and loyal party members who support the Republican Party and want the Republican Party to succeed. We've spent the last, 6-7 years having everyone in the media and the Democratic establishment attack people like us, saying, how is it possible you could support the Republican Party at this moment in time? And how could you support Donald Trump? And why aren't people standing up and saying, no, I'm going to write in Joe Biden because it's so offensive that Donald Trump's the nominee of the Republican Party? Well, where the fuck are you now telling the same thing to Joe Biden?
Right.
Where are the heroes of the Democratic Party who are going to stand up and say, we're going to lose this election if Joe Biden's the nominee? I mean, there's basically, you could count them on one hand. Right. You got James Carville, you got Axelrod, and then it's Bupkis. It's just a bunch of people sitting at the trough being like, well, I'm going to get paid regardless of what happens. So
where are the country over party Democrats?
Right.
Because we've been lectured for a long time with I will clutch my pearls,
right,
and hyperventilate, and this country over party. Why don't the Republicans see we're losing our democracy?
Right.
And yet we have a guy who can't form a sentence.
Yeah.
And
well, they don't exist in Washington D.C., but I think they do exist out there in flyover country, and those are the people who you see that voted for Bill Clinton, maybe voted for Barack Obama, and are now like, I don't like what's going on in Washington. I think we need to put Donald Trump back in.
Yeah. All right, well, it's not all we have for you here today on the Ruthless Variety program. Coming up, we've got Joe Biden's plan for amnesty for illegals here ahead of the election. How's that all going to pan out? We'll tell you all about that. Cori Bush, the radical squad member of the Democratic caucus, is also a miracle healer. This is some very interesting breaking news that we have to cover. And Ralph Reed, OG legend of the conservative movement, and is coming on the program to talk about how they're organizing evangelical voters, ahead of Election Day. So a lot of great stuff here on the Ruthless Variety program when we come back.
All right, minions, listen up. This one is very important. We've all seen the videos, pictures, and stories of the horrendous things coming out of America's schools, and you, dear listener, know that almost all of it is coming from the national teachers' unions that are hell-bent on destroying American public education. Thankfully, our friends at the Freedom Foundation are doing something about it. This July 8th through 10th, they are back in Denver, Colorado for the 2024 Teacher Freedom Summit. Join hundreds of like-minded teachers from across the country to hear from renowned speakers like Dr. Carol Swain, Dr. James Lindsay, and many, many more. The cost of the conference, hotel, and food is all covered thanks to the Freedom Foundation's wonderful supporters. You just have to get yourself to beautiful Denver, Colorado. You won't want to miss this opportunity. Learn more and sign up today at freedomfoundation.com/TFS 2024. That's freedomfoundation.com/TFS 2024.
Okay, we got news here from Politico about Biden's new push here for amnesty. The title of the article is Biden to take sweeping election year action, shielding estimated 550,000 from deportation. You know what I thought was interesting about that headline? No word of no illegal immigrant. It's shielding 550,000 from deportation. What a hero this guy is.
Sweeping action. He's taking Joe Biden is diving into action 3.5 years after he was elected, and now he's shielding illegal immigrants.
Oh, you're being so cynical, McDaniel.
Oh, sorry about that.
Maybe this is politics.
I mean, the first day the guy was sworn in, he opened the border for everybody to cross, and 20 million people later, we have him in an election year saying, "Oh, I'm going to do amnesty." Wild. It's absolutely wild. And one thing, I mean, we're going to get to this in this segment, I know, but like, there's nothing out of Democrats, nothing out of Biden that delineates a Guatemalan family who's coming up for a better life and a Chechnyan radical who is like flown over to Mexico to walk across our border and like spread out among us. And that's what people are afraid of.
Right.
And that's what this president is allowing to happen. I mean, it is terrifying. Everything we saw on October 7th in Israel can happen here in America, in American neighborhoods, to people like us, to people like those who are listening to this show. And you get nothing from the president about how he is going to keep us safe.
Yeah, so some details here from the Politico article. President Joe Biden on Tuesday announced a major new policy initiative shielding tens of thousands of undocumented immigrants residing in the United States from deportation in what amounts to one of the most sweeping immigration measures of his tenure in office. The new program, known as Parole in Place, means like amnesty. Parole in place.
Right.
How the fuck are we calling it parole in place? Like they were given a court date. They're currently on parole in place.
Right.
Will affect an estimated 500,000 spouses of U.S. citizens and 500 children under the age of 21, administrative officials said. It's the same immigration policy that has been used for qualifying military families since 2007. Of course, the left is not happy. It's not enough for them. Hear more from the article. The policy drew sharp rebukes from progressive allies who accused the administration of adopting a wholly conservative framework.
I mean, just insane. They write these stories themselves. They put that line in the story so that it can look like something that's controversial on the left. Get out of here.
Like he's being tough.
So I think that's like, I think you hit on something, Ashbrook. When you read these stories as like a normal person, you sometimes gloss over like the inserts. Like it's the same immigration policy that's been used for qualifying military families since 2007. Yeah, but it wasn't 500,000 illegal immigrants.
Right.
Like those little things that are put in there, those little softeners that they put in. It's like well, it's spouses. Why do you hate children? Why do you hate spouses?
This is just the process, McDaniel.
Yeah, and 500,000. I mean, what if it's 1 million? What if it's what if it's 7 million?
What if they qualify for this program down the line?
Yeah, look. Why do you hate immigrants so much? Because Duncan has brought this up before. I mean, this is classic rules for radicals. Cloward and Piven shifting that Overton window towards a, obviously the baseline, the conservatives want 500,000.
Right.
So we need to be those mean old conservatives.
Nobody wants amnesty, so you let in so many millions of people that there's no solution to the problem, so that amnesty is the only option. You overwhelm the system so it breaks.
Right. It's also a distraction from the real problem. They jangle these keys out to make it look like, oh, we're addressing something related to immigration. However, what's happening in America is that illegal immigrants who have come over the border and who have not shown up for their court dates, they are committing crimes in our country, and people are standing up. And I don't know if you guys saw this story. It was in New York. There was this guy who was an illegal immigrant who was on did not report when he was supposed to report. Raped a 12-year-old girl, and there was a guy in New York who saw it happening and basically took matters into his own hands, and he just took this guy to town. He just started wailing on him, and everybody's like, oh, it's a white problem. White people are worried about being replaced. It was a black guy. He stood up for his neighbor, stood up for this girl who was being tortured by this person who shouldn't have been in the country to begin with, should have complied with all the laws, but wasn't. And that guy took matters into his own hands. And I just feel like there's a lot more of that's going to have to happen because the government isn't doing anything.
And another name, I know that when President Trump was talking about it, he would have the names of the angel families, but Rachel Morin died in Maryland. That's just another name. It's terrible to say just another name on the list, but all of these, I think I talked about this a couple months ago. These are all preventable deaths.
Right.
It's absolutely preventable.
Yeah. These people should not have died, or the other horrible crimes that they've been subject to.
Well, the real crime, according to our media, is that some might be left out. This framing from an Associated Press article here. The headline is "Immigrant Families Rejoice Over Biden's Expansive Move Toward Citizenship, While Some Are Left Out." Hundreds of thousands of immigrants had reason to rejoice when President Joe Biden unveiled a highly expansive plan to extend legal status to spouses of U.S. citizens. But inevitably, some were left out. And now it's just a story about the people who are left out of this, not the story about the people who are being murdered, or the systems being overwhelmed in our schools, or, the strain on local resources. No, it's we need to, expand this program to other people.
It's just so wild to me when the media paints everybody with the same brush. It's absolutely outrageous, dude. Immigrant families don't want their daughters raped by criminals who were let out of jail in Venezuela. They don't want to be attacked by Chechens who are coming over the border illegally with them. I mean, they paint everybody with the same brush.
Yeah.
And what most Americans are concerned about is the people who want to kill the huddled masses. They're not concerned about the huddled masses, but if you read this AP article, they're like, oh, well, it's all just people who just want to help out. It's not. They need to get specific. Yeah. The media needs to be much more specific in their descriptions about who is coming over the border and who is causing problems.
I just like the juxtaposition between these two stories that we just had, right? The Politico story for kind of the insiders is, it's just a small number, it's a to shield, 500,000, which is something that we've done. Whereas the AP story is hundreds of thousands of immigrants had reason to rejoice. Expansive plan.
Right.
It's clearly tailored for different audiences because the AP is getting picked up by your local paper. Right. Politico's not running in the in your local paper, but the AP story is. So I also hate this appeal to emotion that the AP does here. Again, this is the Associated Press. This is this is supposed to be the black letter news.
Right.
And it's immigrant families rejoice. Like, yeah, I mean, they're probably happy, but the obvious counterposition to that of people who, you know, respect the rule of law are against rejoicing immigrants.
How did the people who did it the right way and stood in line and became legal immigrants feel about this sort of thing? And how do the American people feel about it writ large? We have some polling on that, which I'd love to get to. We got to get to an ad break first, so let's do that.
Hey folks, my friends at Americans for Prosperity are again on the front lines fighting against the border crisis. It's clear the politicians aren't going to solve this on their own. It's going to take good old-fashioned grassroots activism, and that's what AFP specializes in. Americans for Prosperity Foundation has taken hundreds of concerned citizens to see the border for themselves, turning them into informed activists. And Americans for Prosperity knows just what we need: more border agents, more walls, and more technology. That's what makes Americans for Prosperity unique. They do the tough work of organizing and mobilizing everyday Americans to make a difference. In fact, they just announced a major campaign to hold Biden and his allies accountable for the crisis at the border. Learn more at secureborder.secureamerica.com. That's secureborder.secureamerica.com.
Okay. So we have from Newsweek a recent poll here. The headline is "Majority of Hispanics now favor mass deportation." You know?
Oh, they must be racist.
You know how hard it must have been for them to write that headline? You know, the people who, like you said, Ashbrook, paint with a broad brush about what Hispanics in this country think.
Everybody's the same.
Yeah. A recent poll found that a majority of Hispanic people favor the mass deportation of undocumented immigrants living in the U.S. illegally. The CBS News YouGov poll found that a majority of registered voters, overall 62%, 62%.
It's not even close.
Yeah. Would favor the government starting a new national program to deport all illegal immigrants currently living in the United States illegally. 38% said they would oppose it. The survey polled, blah, 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 1,615 registered voters. Hispanics support it 53-47. Mm-hmm. 53-47.
Yeah, the reason why is because they don't want their kids harmed. They don't want their families harmed by these like terrorists who are coming over the border. They're here. A lot of people are here for a better life. They do not want their kids to be in a situation where they are being, brutalized by someone who didn't report for their court date, and it's just like a 22-year-old dude who's wandering around and is like meeting up with a gang here. Like this is they take the completely wrong view of how to handle hostile people coming over the border,
or one of those people from Tajikistan who got picked up.
Dude, exactly.
Now, look, I think one of the things that I caught with this when this got reported, because this was also on like CNN, and they were like, it's also looking at black approval rating for Trump, because it hasn't gone down yet. The left is so insidious with its thinking races are monoliths.
Right.
Like
exactly.
the concerns of all Latinos, all blacks, all whites must be X, Y, or Z.
Right.
Whereas, look, I think, Ashbrook, as you said, I think a lot of Hispanic parents don't want gang members in their community, just like a lot of black parents don't want gang members in their community. These are cross-cultural things that the left just doesn't understand, because they see these groups as monolithic.
Well, because it benefits Democrats to paint races as monolithic.
Yep.
It benefits them to say, oh, well, your skin color is that shade, therefore you should vote for us, and here's what we're saying.
Well,
take it or leave it.
There's a pressure there, right, that they're trying to accomplish, and that if they can paint a whole demographic of people with that broad brush and say this is what you're supposed to believe, they think that social pressure will keep them from voting for Republicans.
Yeah, it's offensive.
How do we not actually How do we not actually call that racist? That's kind of racist.
It is, but the media will never write it that way because they're Democrats and they support their party.
Yeah, so that brings me to the question that we want to ask everyone on YouTube today. And we talked about the cloud pivot strategy of basically overwhelming the system so it breaks. Obviously, that's what Joe Biden and the Democrats are doing to immigration in this country. Of course, country without a border isn't a country, and a country without laws, no one's going to respect the laws, at least alone the immigration laws. So our question for everyone on YouTube, and if you haven't joined, join YouTube.
Mm-hmm. It's free. It's free.
It is free.
Like and subscribe.
You hit the button. What's the thing you say?
Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe if you wish to opine.
I love it.
And so I did get feedback from a family member about if you're watching on your TV and not on your computer, you can pause it, and on the pause screen there's that subscribe button. So there was some concern because a lot of our folks.
Oh, we're doing walkthroughs now. I love that.
I think a lot of our folks
very smart
who are watching us now, there are a lot of folks who are just getting into YouTube.
Right.
And I know my parents, they're both, in their 60s, who love YouTube now. And I think a lot of our subscribers...
my mom's the same way. No. So she never used to watch YouTube until she watches the show on her TV now to see us. And she's like, now I watch YouTube so much, so now she's become a pro.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of the folks who are joining us, a lot of the new folks who are joining us, if you're finding us, subscribing is not like we're going to send you a bill. Comfortably Smug might.
Free.
I mean,
it's free.
Smug wants to. We won't let him do that.
We will never let him do that to you.
What that actually means is just that when we put out new videos, it's the first thing that pops up for you. So you can actually follow along.
Or you
with
get
us.
a notification on your phone, so you know when we publish something or we're going live or doing some great funny bit, which we love to do. But back to the question of the day, is that deportation even possible? Like, do you as a voter think that if we get a clean sweep in November, this is something that, President Donald Trump with a Republican Congress can get done? And, is that important to you as a voter? So we want to hear from you. That's our question of the day. Leave it in the comments now. Now to the question we asked on the last episode. Mm-hmm. We love reading these. We have some comments here from people on our question from the Tuesday episode, and that is the youth vote. We did those polls of African-American voters that showed, Trump doing historically good with the African-American vote and Joe Biden doing historically bad in his favorability with youth voters. So we want to know, are you seeing this with your kids, with your grandkids? Mm-hmm. If you're young enough, you're seeing it amongst your peers. So we've got three comments here. Let's go to Ashbrook first.
Okay, and as we like to say, we love these comments, and we like to read them even more. But if you'd like your comment read on the show, just like and subscribe.
Man, I am on with two professional salespeople here today.
we got to do it.
This first one is from Wendy Pringle, 1450, and Wendy writes, "The vote is shifting. All four of my kids and most of their friends, late 20s, early 30s, are avid and vocal conservatives and always have been. I guess I did something right, LOL."
Nice.
Thank you, Wendy.
Wendy, get them to subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Trump flags flying in front of their homes and many on their neighbors' homes. They are informed voters who are sharing their knowledge with those who don't have all the facts but are upset about the rising cost of living, the border, etc., and doing their part in helping their peers make informed decisions. They're located in many different areas as well: Western New York, Virginia, Tennessee, and South Carolina. Teaching actual history and civics in all levels of public and private schools would certainly help the sanity of our country. Thanks for all you fellas do. Love the program. And she wrote program.
Wonderful.
Wendy knows what we like.
McDaniel, what do you got for us?
Sure. So comment number 2, this is from Connor Buss, 3094. "I do not think that young people who voted for Joe Biden are going to turn around and vote for Trump 4 years later in large numbers. A few of them may as a result of growing up and being faced with the economic reality of a Biden presidency, but I think the more likely outcome is all those first-time voters who are mobilized on college campuses stay home this year due to a lack of enthusiasm. Regardless of political party, very few people under 25 are excited to vote this year." I think Connor's right on. I think that it's always been a mirage for the Democrats. Always, the youth vote will carry us. The youth vote will carry us. It seems to never come through. And also, like, we love our grandparents. If you still have your grandparents, they're around. But I don't think a lot of your young people are going to go out and vote for Joe Biden. He's just not. He's not Barack Obama. Whereas they got the youth vote with Obama, they're not getting the youth vote for Joe Biden. Yeah. He's not doing it.
All right. So the third one we have here is from Molly R. Littlekin Hen. Midwestern gal here.
Oh, yeah, we love the Midwest.
It may look like the polls aren't favoring Biden, but the Dems always come home for their party. They may not like Joe, but they certainly don't hate him as much as Trump. Can't get excited over polls. They're not satisfied, but come November 5th, they won't change.
Cold dose of reality from Molly.
So a couple of things on this. Like, number one, I love a person who's pessimistic in politics.
Yeah, because that's you. That's the old man.
Well, yeah, because if you play the game like you're 10 points down, even in the fourth quarter, even when you got a lead,
you have to.
You have to. Mm-hmm. That's the only way to be in this.
You mean we can't just bank on a red wave? And, not. Okay.
I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Look, we learned our lesson in 2022 by reading the polls and thinking it was all hunky dory, and it turns out it wasn't. Mm-hmm. I would say, like, the one thing, and sort of back to what McDaniel's comment was about. They hate Biden. And, they hate Trump, too. The double haters. That's the big theme here of this election.
Yeah, you're going to hear that a lot this cycle.
Yeah. What's the likelihood of them to turn out for anyone? Mm-hmm. Because of, just if you look at the numbers, I would like, if you're 18 to 34, if you turned out for Donald Trump. But, them staying home isn't bad for us, too, necessarily. If they hate both of them,
they might vote for RFK.
Yeah.
Who I think the news broke today will not be on the CNN debate stage. He did not make the CNN debate stage, which, if you're an RFK supporter, that's got to hurt because he's polling all right.
Yeah, but
in some
it
of these
just
states.
it sort of seemed like CNN had this wired up from the beginning.
Oh, yeah. And did you see the changes that the Biden campaign demanded? They wanted commercial breaks so that the old man can sit down and be quiet for a minute. They wanted to turn off the mics because they know that he'll say something stupid and Trump will have like an immediate comeback because that's just sort of his strength.
Right.
And they're going to mute his mic so that he's not able to like dunk on him. So they have this debate wired up for Joe Biden in a way that it's never been wired for any candidate in the past. I still think Trump's going to slaughter him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like kudos to Trump for walking into the lion's den. Like he is that's the thing that people need to understand. He is going in there unafraid.
Right.
Like he is playing. Well, that's the other thing. He's playing to win.
Yeah.
Which is something I'm really happy because in 2020 I had some concerns about that. But 2024, Trump is playing to win. Leave nothing on the field. Yeah, I'll go into CNN. Yeah, I'll debate you here. Yeah, I'll go here. Yeah, I'll walk into a Harlem deli. Yeah, he's going places where Republicans don't go, and that's what he did in 2016.
Yeah.
Remember, he appeared on all those shows. He would take every interview.
Yeah.
And now he's going into the lion's den. Now, is it going to help him this time or not? I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
give him credit for it.
That is the gamble because it was sort of a lifeline to Joe Biden. He didn't have to take this debate early. He could have made Joe Biden twist in the wind for the next 3 months and have everybody wonder if he's going to, fall on his face at the Dem convention. So. But this is, like, to your point, this is a Trump campaign that's totally unafraid. They'll go anywhere. They'll do anything, which you got to admire. So we got to get to the sponsor of today's episode. That's Qualius Analytic.
Oh, yeah.
So Qualius Analytic helps get rid of zombie cells. They're called zombie cells, senescent cells in your body. These are the sort of things that make you feel sluggish, make you feel like you're getting older, getting a little bit slower. And, we're not spring chickens anymore.
However, old man, since you've been taking it, I think you look a little bit younger.
So my mom says the same thing. I was just talking to her on the phone last night, and she was like, "Oh, you did a great job on the show on Tuesday, and you're looking younger, radiant."
It's not a coincidence.
You think so?
I know so.
Yeah. The thing about Qualius Analytic is you don't have to take it every single day.
Right. This is one of the great benefits.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not like a multivitamin where you got to take it every single morning. So it's it's pretty quick, and you just put it in your routine of living and feel a little bit younger, feel a little bit more focused, feel like you got more energy. I've been using it here for a while, and I think it works.
Yeah, no, they don't want us to call it a wonder drug, but I think it's pretty close.
Yes. So that's Qualius Analytic. Resist aging at the cellular level. Try Qualius Analytic. Go to qualialife.com/ruthless for up to $100 off and use code Ruthless at checkout for an additional 15% off. That's qualialife.com/ruthless for an extra 15% off your purchase. Thank you to Qualia for sponsoring today's episode. All right, you want to get to some variety?
Let's do it.
Okay. This is the Cori Bush thing.
Okay. I can't wait to hear this.
Miracle worker here. I mean, before we get to the story, Fox News has a great story here. I think it would be unfair to give it away before we actually play the clip of her. So let's play that.
You're a pastor.
Yes.
You write about healing through faith. At one point, you came across a woman with, quote, several visible tumors on her torso. Tell me what happened.
So at that time, I, along with a group of friends, we would go out on the street and just meet with people and pray with people and offer them food. And this lady came to us and she had these tumors. I mean, she wanted us to like feel them. And I just remember I put my hand on her and my hand just began to move. And the lumps that were there were no longer there. And she was so happy and she like went on about her day. And I never saw her again.
Huh. What I think is so interesting about that is, can you imagine, like, if Marjorie Taylor Greene was in an interview and described herself as a faith healer, what the media and the people online would do?
Have you ever seen Fletch Lives? Jimmy Lee Farnsworth, when he calls people up and he heals them. I mean, like, that's the same thing. It's like another soul healed by Jimmy Lee Farnsworth.
Zoomers, I just want to apologize to the Zoomers who are watching.
I think
this.
It's Zoomers, Millennials, Gen X, Boomers. I think the Greatest Generation got that one.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, Fletch is great.
I have a real problem with this, because if she believes this, then why the hell are you in the House of Representatives and not out there going to Walter Reed, healing our troops?
Oh, well, that's
why are you? So it's the very cynical point on this is, if you believe that this happened, and look, faith can do amazing things. Like we all know, faith can do amazing things. But if she truly believes this, that she has like the power to heal people, she should not be in Congress. She should be going out and healing the nation.
There was I don't want to just like go all through the Gen X mentions here, but there was just a terrific Saturday Night Live bit about a presidential primary with Bob Dole and Pat Robertson. And he was like, let me tell you something, Pat Robertson. You turn to me and heal my right arm. I'll step aside and let you be president of the United
States. That's actually very funny.
It's very funny.
Another Gen X bit. I like it.
Funny.
I appreciate it. All right, so here from the Fox News story, Cori Bush claims her faith healing helped a sick toddler walk and then healed a woman's tumors. Stories about Missouri Democrat Rep Cori Bush miraculously healing a woman with tumors and causing a sick toddler to walk has surfaced. One instance included helping a disabled toddler to walk. The child had a bleed in her brain shortly after she was born, and so she couldn't walk. She had never taken a step in her life. She's making people walk now.
There was no follow-up question there.
Yeah.
There was no, like, pressure to, like, hey, how did you do that? What did it actually happen? There was no, like, we found the person, and it turns out they weren't actually healed.
So the one thing that well, that'd be that. I mean, yeah, the least bit of investigation, like. Did you find the tumor person or the child?
She's a Democrat.
The other thing, I think, I'm not sure if it's in the Fox story, but part of this story is that this is in her book. So she wrote a book. So this is a Kristi Noemism. This is like Cricket the dog, but for Cori Bush. Is that
at least she was healing somebody and not killing a dog.
Well, that's fair. Yeah. But it's one of those things that you're not always sure that you're going to get called on.
Oh yeah.
And I think that it's maybe an embellishment that she's miraculous.
She wasn't called on there.
Well, no, exactly.
I mean, just the framing of everything in our politics is just so funny to me. Like I said, like if MTG said that she did faith healing, she'd be mocked relentlessly. It would be on SNL.
Right.
It'd be on Twitter every single night. Right. But with Cori Bush, it's just like a great attribute of her character and her personal life. And it's like the same thing about the border, right? It's like Donald Trump wants a secure border. He's a Nazi. He wants to put kids in cages. But Joe Biden can announce tough new immigration laws to secure the border, and also a compassionate thing, granting amnesty to these 500,000 illegal immigrants. It's like I mean, we're just up against the most corrupt media in the way that they talk about politics.
But here's the thing. People see through that. The audience sees right through that. And so, like, the idea that they're asking that question and they're like, yeah, Corey, excellent point. And that, like, that's the biggest joke in town. And they don't understand that they're actually the punchline.
Yeah.
And like, our media is just messed up. Just messed up.
All right, we got to get to the second story because it involves the animal kingdom. And John Ashbrook, you're going to like this one.
Okay.
A cow got ran over by the police.
Okay.
Cow ran over by police. I'm not going to read the article until we see that clip.
Got him!
He's running.
Okay, so we got a street here. Looks like somebody's filming.
Wow.
The cow.
Right through it.
Oh, wow.
Right through it.
Coming back for more.
The head is right under that wheel.
But for our audience, I got to preface it because we might have people who love animals. The cow is actually okay.
The cow is okay.
The cow is okay, which you wouldn't have seen from that clip.
McDaniel standing up for the animal kingdom over here, which is just
I'm taking the cow side. When we get into the story, I'm actually the one who's on the cow side here.
Yeah, well, you'll be the only one. But for our audio-only listeners who didn't see that clip, just to set it up a little bit, it looks like they're filming from like a window of a high-rise or something. And they're looking down over the street. This cow's in the middle of the street. The police car hits it. The cow kind of topples over, and then the police car looks like it hits it again. It goes back for more.
Oh, that's exactly what happened. But I mean, if an animal that's that big is on the loose,
right?
What are the cops supposed to do? They're the ones who are put in that situation where everybody's like, "Oh, solve it," and they're supposed to be out taking bad guys. And somebody's like, "Oh, a cow is in the street." What are they? What are they going to do?
So, Duncan, can you tell us where this happened? Because I think this is really important to your point.
It's very, very important here. This is from ABC News. UK government demands an explanation. Demands an explanation. Demands a
the
fucking
government
explanation.
wants an explanation for that. Not for the terrorists who are coming into their country.
Demands an explanation.
Rishi Sunak is about to lose this election by 400 seats, and they demand an explanation over the cow.
Demands an explanation after police ram a runaway cow with a squad car. The police here being guilty until proven innocent. I mean, what a fucked up country they got over there.
I have a story about this. So in Baltimore, where I live,
I'm sorry.
Well, it goes. It's actually relevant because there was a cow that escaped, or a steer that escaped while I was in law school, and it was running around near the law school.
In the city?
In the city. Well, it was like, I think they have freight cars that come through. And it was on its way to a meatpacking facility. It jumps out of the rail car, is running around. Police get a shotgun, just put it down, like in the middle of the street. They shoot it, and it was actually funny that there was somebody in Baltimore drew like a police outline around the dead, cow. But I think
with the udder, did they do the udder?
Did they do the full udder?
Well, it's a steer.
Oh, steer.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah. So
but the
5
horns,
legs.
Yeah, they get the fifth leg in there.
Yeah. But I think it's really telling that the UK police don't have guns.
Yeah.
So they have to use their squad car.
Wait, the Bobbies don't have guns?
No,
are you kidding me?
There's that whole thing that most of the police in Europe aren't armed. And
do they have a taser, perhaps?
Are you going to get out?
I don't think you
would
can
you
tase.
Would you tase a steer, or would you tase a cow?
No, I don't think there's enough voltage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what else? If you're a police officer in the UK, what else are you going to use? Because it gets to our point of what's the biggest animal you think you can take? Do you think a UK police officer could take a cow?
What sort of country? What sort of country is this? That Britain's interior minister. There's a statement from the interior minister.
You got to be kidding me. the central government, the Home Office.
But you have to use the accent.
We get the Home Office.
I can't do the accent. Britain's interior minister on Saturday demanded a, quote, urgent explanation after police officers were filmed ramming a runaway cow with their car. An urgent explanation?
Urgent.
What is going on?
Urgent. What if it isn't Jernigan Wifflebottom?
No, I have to say, it did happen in a very British place. It's at Staines upon Thames.
I mean,
it happened at Staines.
All I have to say, thank God we're not paying taxes to these people.
I mean,
anymore.
no wonder they got their asses kicked by a bunch of colonists.
for our friends who might not be following British politics right now, too, it's even funnier because there's a general election on July 4th in the UK coming up, and it looks like the current administration is going to get absolutely destroyed. And it's funny that their interior minister, instead of focusing on the election, is demanding urgent explanations of what happened to the cow at Staines upon
all over it.
Maybe the cow was a false flag by labor.
It's reform is rising.
Oh, reform is rising.
Yeah, Farage is coming up.
That is right. Okay, well, we got to get to this interview here, Ralph Reed. I want to welcome to the program an absolute legend of the conservative movement, Ralph Reed, who is the founder and chairman of the Faith and Freedom Coalition. You've got this great conference coming up in D.C. starting today, and you're joining us here on Ruthless. I really appreciate it.
You bet, Duncan. Good to be with you.
So tell me about this. This is like the Road to Majority conference. So this is sort of a big deal.
It is. It's our annual policy conference. We'll have 3,000 to 4,000 of our close personal friends who are there, pastors, grassroots activists, the kind of people who constitute our infrastructure at the state level. We have state organizations in 38 states. We're going to knock on 10 million doors in the next 140 days and reach 17 to 18 million voters of faith in their home. That's going to involve 10,000 staff and volunteers. It'll be the largest such effort by an organization outside the Republican Party, by a center-right organization in your or my lifetime.
Wow.
And these activists and leaders, we're going to fire them up. We're going to inject them with an adrenaline shot of enthusiasm and excitement. But more importantly, we're going to train them. We've got workshops going on about everything from how to build a precinct organization to how to organize your church to how to undertake a voter registration drive and watch the P's and Q's of what's acceptable for a tax-exempt organization like a church. A lot of emphasis on minority bridge building. By the way, we're going to have probably about a third of the people that are there, Duncan, are going to be either African-American or Hispanic.
Amazing.
Including 500 Hispanic pastors and community organizers. We got an unbelievable lineup of speakers, everybody from Tim Scott to Ted Cruz to Kristi Noem to Carrie Lake. I mean, I can't name them all. There's 75 speakers, and it's going to be a pretty amazing weekend.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I imagine, this period of time in our country with everything going on, evangelical voters, grassroots voters of faith are probably pretty motivated right now.
I think it's off the charts. The enthusiasm gap, as you know, from looking at the polling, it is not as yawning as, say, a 2010 or a 94 or those kind of seismic sort of wave elections. But it's in the high single digits in terms of the gap between who's most enthusiastic, the Biden voters or the Trump voters. And of course, 84 to 87% of our constituency, self-identified, born-again evangelical Christians, are Trump supporters. And, unlike the other side, where they're not so much for their guy, they're just against the other guy, our people are really for their guy. And in my career, not that that's dispositive, but I think it's instructive. It's far better to have people who are enthusiastic for their candidate than simply opposed to the other candidate.
Yeah.
That makes a big difference in turnout. So we feel really good about, what we're going to be able to accomplish between now and November 5th. And it's pretty historic and pretty remarkable.
That's great. So I'm curious, the most important thing that we always talk about here on the Variety program is turning energy into action, into outcome, getting, people out there mobilized to vote and to knock on doors and do all of those things. I'm curious, in meeting with, grassroots activists, what's like the number one thing that they want to learn about and how to get involved? Is it to be like a precinct captain? Is it, how do I knock doors? Is it how do I make phone calls? I'm just sort of curious what you hear from people trying to get involved, many for maybe the first time.
Yeah, it's a great question. And in my experience, and I interact with these folks, in a pretty significant way as part of what I do. And 9 times out of 10, they'll actually come to us and say, tell me what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what I can do to make a difference.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah. And of course, we always tell them to give.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
We don't need to necessarily make this a big topic on this particular episode, but I'm sure it's something that you've talked about, and I would urge others to really take a closer look at. One of the biggest strategic imbalances and one of the biggest examples of the sort of asymmetrical warfare going on in American politics is between the small donor base on the Act Blue platform,
yeah,
and the small donor base on Win Red.
Mm-hmm.
It's roughly 3 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't get any worse than that. So we tell them to give to the candidates of their choice and give to us, because to do what we're going to do, we need about $60 to $70 million, and that's a drop in the bucket in what's going to be depends on who you talk to, but let's call it a $10 billion election cycle. But it's a big deal for us. So we ask them to give and get some skin in the game. And then we ask them if they're physically able, and we have a lot of seniors involved, so they're not all physically able. Most are, a lot of young people, a lot of homeschoolers, a lot of Christian young people. We tell them to go door to door, and we stress, if you live in a swing state, either presidential or Senate, or you're in a swing district or can get to one, do it in your neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Do it where you live. Do it with the people that you can say, hey, I live 4 doors down. That's far more effective.
Right.
If you can't do it in your neighborhood, then we have a great app that they can use where they can make phone calls to low propensity, conservative, center right, and faith-based voters to get them to turn out in states and districts that will decide the outcome of this election. We've put as many as 1 million phone calls into a single U.S. Senate race or a single state with our volunteers around the country. And we'll do a total of 10 million of those calls in all the key states, just with people on an app.
Mm-hmm. They
download about 20 names. We try not to have people in Alabama calling people in upstate New York. So try to make sure that the accents match.
Yeah, yeah.
And so those are the 3 things we ask them to do for the most part, and they do them. And they do them. I mean, this is shoe leather politics. All the technology is 21st century. It's the most advanced forms of data science, micro-targeting and data analytics. We're now using a lot of AI tools to assist both our volunteers and others as to how to communicate with these voters. I don't want to get too much into that because a lot of it is proprietary, but there's sort of message trees that you can build. But it doesn't matter how advanced the technology gets. It's still person to person, neighbor to neighbor, friend to friend. It's shoe leather politics. That's how you won elections in the 1840s. That's how you won them in the 1960s. That's how you win them today, even with the advent of all these technological advances.
Yeah, the technology is great, though, because it lowers the barriers to entry for people to get involved in politics. It's really democratized our politics in that way, which
I couldn't agree more.
It's fantastic. So if people want to get involved, where do they go? And if they want to watch, they can't come to the conference here over the next couple of days. Where do they watch?
Both great questions. If they want to get involved, they can go to ffcoalition.com. That's FF as in faith and freedom, coalition.com. And they can give there, they can volunteer there. There's buttons and options on the website. If you want to volunteer in your state or you want to call into another state, There's volunteer signups, and there's ways to give. And then if you want to watch the Road to Majority Conference, which begins today but really ramps up in a dramatic way tomorrow, beginning at 1 p.m., then I believe Fox Nation is going to be televising that or streaming that gavel to gavel.
Awesome. Wow.
Yeah,
Streaming
Thursday,
on
Friday,
Fox
and
Nation.
Saturday.
That's a big deal. Very cool. Well, that's fantastic. I really appreciate you coming on here, Ralph, and telling us everything. Like I said, an absolute legend in the game. You were speaking about how maybe your experience wasn't dispositive of politics, but you truly have seen it all. And so I'm really glad our listeners got to hear from you directly. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Boy, this guy has been a mainstay in conservative politics for a very long time, and it seems like he's going to be around for a while yet.
Yeah, I mean, they got that convention here in D.C. at the Hilton here over the next couple of days. It's going to be streamed on Fox Nation. They're mobilizing evangelical voters. They got a walk app, call app, all the sorts of stuff, helping get people of faith organized ahead of a very, very critical election. Mm-hmm. So tip of the cap to Ralph for doing all of that.
Yeah.
Just as a reminder to our folks as we get out of here that please, hit the like button if you've made it this far. You clearly like the content, or you've gotten to the end of the stream, or you've gotten to the end of the video. So please make sure you give us a like. I'm gonna do my best comfortably.
You're gonna do it?
Great.
I think I will.
Love this.
So,
okay, well,
go ahead and set me up.
But before we get to that, we gotta do the question again on the YouTube.
Go for it.
On the YouTube, he's trying to take my job over here. Can you believe that?
Outrageous.
Do you think it's possible? If Trump wins, we got a united Republican Congress. Can you actually do the deportations that are needed of all these immigrants that Joe Biden's let in? Leave that comment on YouTube. We'll read it on the next show. Fellas, I think we did it.
Another banger of an episode. So until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Tuesday. Stay ruthless.